Welcome to the Weekly Weapons Brief brought to you by Battlefield Vegas. My name is Rick, and today we're going to be going over the Smith & Wesson 500 Magnum. The 500 was invented in 2003 and inducted to the Smith & Wesson X-frame line, meaning extra large frame. So it was originally marketed as the most powerful production handgun in the world. And its intended use was for hunting, sports shooting, and at this range it's generally used for putting big smiles on people's faces, you know, because it's a lot of fun to shoot. That said, it features rubber absorbing, recoil absorbing rubber hand grip, adjustable rear sight, interchangeable front sight. So we're not going to open her up completely today. It requires tools, and there's really usually, unless you're replacing parts or going for a real deep clean, there's no reason to really take this weapon all the way apart like that. So that said, if you were going to take it apart for a deep clean, you'd take out the yoke assembly right here. And the reason I mention that is because between that and this locking stud that's right in here, that thing locks into the timing notches that run alongside the cylinder. And what Hollywood shows a lot of people to do is spin that cylinder and then drive it home, which is extraordinarily bad for the weapon because you can damage that notch or that yoke assembly, which makes it so this cylinder doesn't lock in correctly with the ammunition within the weapon. And a weapon of this kind of caliber, you definitely want the projectile like perfectly seated to go out that barrel. It could get pretty dangerous otherwise. So that said, this weapon's a lot of fun, so I'm going to turn it right over to Livio so he can show you guys what it's like to fire this weapon and how to use it safely.
Alright guys, I'm Livio. I'm back here again to talk about, today we're going to talk about the Smith & Wesson 500. With the Smith & Wesson 500, this thing's a hand cannon, so I'm going to start out and go over a lot of the stuff that I always go over with handguns, and then I'm going to cover some of the more important things, some of the differences that you're going to do when shooting this one. This one has pretty good grip on it, and it kind of has to, especially with the caliber round that this thing shoots. You're going to make sure that your hand's all the way up top. Wrap your hand around it. Make sure that there's no gap in between your hand and the grip here. All the way up top, full grip. Now you don't have to squeeze any tighter than a handshake. Make sure that your other hand comes in to trace these fingers with these, just like that. And what you want to make sure that you don't do is don't ever let any of your digits kind of hang out here. What happens when that round goes off, there's still a little bit of a gap here and you're going to get some gases that escape and it'll burn the crap out of you. So just make sure that you keep your fingers lined up with your first set of fingers, with your firing hand fingers, and then reach out like always, lean forward into it. The extra stuff to take into consideration with this one is you're going to consciously think about pushing your shoulders forward, and what that does is it helps you kind of get forward into it. So push your shoulders forward, and then you're going to turn your elbows to the side. You don't have to look all goofy like this. It's actually a bad idea to do that, but reach out and turn your elbows to the side. What happens is when your elbows are down, the gun can come upwards. When your elbows are to the side, it's more likely to be absorbed into your arms, and it's a lot safer that way. You can do this in either single action or double action. Double action is a lot less accurate because you've got a lot of movement going on with this trigger while you're waiting for it to go off. Whereas if you put it on single, it's a feather trigger. So you're going to start out same grip, keep your finger off the trigger until you're locked in and you're ready to shoot it. Then you can place your finger on the trigger. Sights are pretty easy. This is the longer barrel version of it, which has a compensation on the front, so it helps hold the gun down. The extra weight on the barrel actually helps with that as well. The shorter versions, a little bit harder to shoot, a little more rise, recoil, just because of that weight's not there. But if you guys do it just like that, like I explained it, it's actually not that hard to shoot, considering the size of the round that this one is. It's still fun.
500. So thanks again, Livio, and thanks you guys for watching. Alright, thanks again, Livio, and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week on the Weekly Weapons Brief. And just as always, leave any questions, comments, interests at the bottom.